Salibonani, good morning, Magadi, Linjani. Can I start by inviting the candidates who are our speakers this morning? I am told we have Mr. Dumisani Nkomo from the Citizens Coalition for Change. If you could come up front and take a seat. I am also told that we have Mr. Archibald Chiponda from ZANU PF. I am told we have Mr. Bruce Munyoro from NAP. I'm not sure if they have arrived yet, but we're expecting Mr. Chitrin Frank Chazanga from the Movement for Democratic Change. And I'm not sure whether the organizers could not get the full name, but there is somebody called Bob. Please, from the EFF, from the Economic Freedom Fighters, I think, Zimbabwe. So if they are in the room, please try and find your way to the front. I need one extra chair from the organizers so that if any of the other speakers makes it, they will have a place to sit. My name is Liberty Pepe. I am the current chairperson of the National Youth Development Trust, one of the organizations that have put together this meeting. I will be facilitating the meeting. I am not a candidate. I will be facilitating the conversations. This meeting has been brought to you, organized by the Election Resource Center in partnership with the National Youth Development Trust, which is a youth organization from the southern part of the country, in partnership with the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, which is a known residents association from the City of Kings. We are here to hear from the candidates, but not just to hear from them, but also to ask them specific questions. We are here because we are interested in knowing what they are promising us. We are here because we are interested in knowing whether they understand our issues as Ward 5. We are here this morning because we want to understand from them, right from the horse's mouth, what are their electoral promises. We want to understand from them what is it that they are going to do for us, which is different, or which is different from what others have been doing. Silapha namhlanje ekseni ngoba kulokhetho mhla ka-23 August. Kulamadoda, unfortunately kukhanya ngoba babodwa. Omama bakho akula mama lapho wade benza ukuthi kulabododa labo mama. But so far silamadoda wodwa la. Athi wona kukhona abafisa ukusenzela khona. Sifisa ukuthi sibezwe namhlanje ekseni. Ukuthi kanti yini le abasithembisa yona. Sibe sesikhangela ukuthi nxa besithi basithembisa lokhu imbali yabo imi kanjani ukuthi kwabasithembisa khona kule history yini yetshengisela ukuthi kukhona abake bakwenza okungenza sibathembe sibe sesikhangela lokuthi ngubani osithembise ukwenzela ukuthi mhla ka-23 sesikhangelane le ballot box usukhetha usunikwe iphepha lika council ele local authority ukuthi ukhethe usukhumbula ukuthi kanje kulabana abafika ku ward 5 basithembisa ubani wasithembisa okungcono lumhlangano awubizwanga yi-political party ubizwe ngamazinhlanganiso ezimela amalungelo oluntu so asi-expect ukuthi kube ngani yi-rally ye-political party hatshi sifisa ukuthi omunye lomunye ofisa ukukhuluma athole ithuba lokukhuluma omunye lomunye omele inhlanganiso yakhe akhulume engaphanjaniswanga. We want all our candidates to speak without interference. We are asking us as participants and the audience here namhlanje to practice extreme tolerance. We are also asking our candidates to be extremely tolerant. No matter whether usuchiseko kunganani, umuntu sekukhuluma into ofisa ukuyiphendula khonapho hayi, mnikeze ithuba, give them an opportunity to speak, and then you will be given your own opportunity to respond. So let's make sure that we practice tolerance in this meeting. Also, let us make sure that the language esisebenzisayo does not promote violence. The language we are using must promote peace. The language we are using must promote peace in this meeting and outside of the meeting. Singathi hayi singaqeda la. Our language must ensure that we are promoting the conduct of peaceful elections. Ngiyacelisisa that we must promote peace. We want peaceful elections. We want people to make their choices in a peaceful environment. Sifisa njalo ukuthi labo abasithembisayo basithembise kungela ngxabano. Let us not name call each other. Let us try and present our ideas without trying to bring down the next person. Bring out your ideas. Let's share. Let's interrogate. Let's interact with your ideas without name calling. In name calling, iqinisenza ukuthi kube la khona kan ukuchiseka ukuthi umuntu afisa ukuphendula. So let's allow the meeting to go on peacefully and allow our discussions to continue peacefully. I am hoping for a fruitful conversation this morning. So, without taking too much of your time, let me allow my candidates 1 minute each to introduce themselves. We would want you to introduce yourself, introduce us to the political party you are coming from. Just that, 1 minute. Tell us who you are and which political party you are coming from. And again, if there is another candidate who has joined us, Esingambonanga, please, we have space for you right in front.
Dumisani Nkomo, but my official first name is Octavius. So it's Octavius Dumisani Nkomo. Nimelele Yandale CCC.
My name is Archibald Chiponda. Nimelele ZANU. I hope you're all well. My name is Munyoro. NAP, Nationalist Alliance Party.
I would like to give my candidates the first question. Umbuzo wami wokuqala to the candidates. And I will ask them to speak. Kuqala siqalise ngale sanga. So sizathi last ibe ngiyokuqala kusiyale. Is what is your understanding of the challenges and opportunities are faced ngama residents ga Ward 5 ko Bulawayo? Singakayi ku Bulawayo wonke. What is your understanding of ama challenges, ama opportunities akhona ku Ward 5? And don't go to what you are promising. Let's stop with what you are understanding so that sibe ku same level. Wenze nxa ususithembisa sikwazi usithembisa uzwisisa. So I will start with you, sir.
Ama challenges asiwakhangela ngayo esigaba sethu yiwapi? Mina ngihlala e4 Winds. So manje se4 Winds labana sengabona ukuthi into yokuqala silabo mama bethu abele umsika kuma shopping center around or ama wards ethu. Omama labana ngabantu abasihambise izikolo bethengisa amatamatisi, ama-onion, into eziningi and ngabantu abazange bancediswa in these previous elections ukuthi umuntu okhethiweyo uba yenzeleni njengokhansela. Mina into engiyibonayo ngekuthi abantu laba sokuthi sibancedise ngokubafakela ama-proper structures ukuthi ma even kuyisikhathi sezulu bayakwanisa ukuthi besebenze kuhle bengala problem, kuyisikhathi ukuchisa bangabe le problem, even nxa kuyisikhathi sokuthi kuyaba mnyama masinya sibafakela lama lights siyakha ama-structures azabancedisa bona. And okwesibili kule issue yokuthi abantu besigaba zethu abanamsebenzi batshona behlezi ezindaweni zamashop bengalento abayenzayo. Ngikhangela even i4 Winds kule development eyenzakalayo khathesi kuyakhwa izindlu, so siyabizama ukuthi sikhulumise lo udeveloper oyakhayo ukuthi encedise ethathe abantu abesigaba sethu ukuthi lawo bengena umsebenzi, singathola abantu abavela khatshana bezosebenza khona apha endaweni yethu e4 Winds. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga. Two things esizizwileyo. Number one, vendors have challenges. Number two, job opportunities, imisebenzi, local jobs for local people. Mr. Chiponda.
Thank you. We had said my strengths and opportunities for our ward. In terms of Ward 5, our biggest strength or our biggest comparative advantage is actually our size. Ward 5 is massive, which means there's a lot of land in Ward 5, which is unutilized. I think in Bulawayo as a ward, we might have the largest potential. I think the only other people who possibly might be bigger is Ward 2. But Ward 5, in terms of per inch, we have a lot of land we can utilize. The good thing about land is it comes with a lot of opportunity. It comes with a lot of opportunity in terms of employment. It comes with a lot of opportunity in terms of expansion. It comes with a lot of benefits, even benefits which might not seem like hard issues. Sometimes we like to focus on hard issues. We like to focus on things you can touch or tangible issues. But when you have land, even as a community, it's shocking that Ward 5, as big as we are, from Burnside to Newton West this side, to Jiwe that side, we don't have a park in Ward 5. If you've noticed that, we don't have a place where kids can go play, or where communities can just meet, or somewhere where you can just go Kokumoya and have a picnic or something like that. These are soft life issues. These are where a lot of our problems are coming from. So I would say that our biggest strength is our size, the amount of open space we have for expansion, the amount of land we have to utilize. And that strength also gives us the biggest opportunity in terms of we can solve a lot of problems because of that space. Even local unemployment, as he was saying, there's public works programs. That land will have to be cleared to be usable. So you're going to have to employ people to clear that land. So you just employ people within our ward. So I would think, yeah, definitely to me, our biggest strength would be our land, and the utilization of that land creates our biggest opportunity.
Land is a big opportunity, and lack of recreational facilities as a challenge. Babunko.
Ward 5 has got 13 suburbs ranging from low density, high density, and industrial. So it's the most diverse ward in the whole city, if not in the country. The challenges are different. There are many. First of all, the infrastructural challenges, the state of our roads, potholes, and so forth. Street lights. Bulawayo in total needs 17,000 new street lights, and Ward 5 constitutes the bulk of those street lights. So there's a challenge of street lights. Thirdly, there's also, as my brother has said again, there's a challenge of recreational facilities. We've got a recreational facility here, but it's crumbling. We've got another one in municipals. So there's a challenge of recreational facilities for young people. So our young people don't have spaces where they can recreate, where they can engage in sport. We can easily put Wi-Fi here, for example. So we have those challenges of lack of facilities for young people. Again, our yard has got a large number of pensioners. If you look at Newton West, Bellevue, and Hillside, a lot of the residents there are pensioners. And most of those pensioners are currently struggling with issues of rates. So it's one of the major key challenges that we face as a ward. We also have the issue of substance abuse. Most of our young people in Ward 5, if you go to the shops, you find that they are unable to participate in any development initiative. So it will be very important to look at this. Maybe lastly, in terms of opportunities, I'll have a chance to talk about what you actually do. Because we're in an industrial area as well, and you contribute, I think, we're second in terms of contributing to rates to the city council. I think that's a very great opportunity, even in terms of engaging corporates to become part of the solution, whether it's in terms of employment, local economic development, corporate social responsibility, and so forth. So it's a huge opportunity that we have. The fact that kulemanda futhi ngapha ngithi kubele low density, kubele high density. So Ward 5 is actually a microcosm of Bulawayo. If you talk about Bulawayo, you're talking about Ward 5. Because Ward 5, ule high density, ule Chabalala extension, ule low density, upindubele industrial, le commercial. So huge opportunities there in terms of projects as well. So I think in a nutshell, those are some of the challenges that you have as a ward. I'm sure later on we'll be able to then articulate clearly the roadmap as to how we actually address these specific infrastructural service delivery and development issues. Thank you.
I'm hoping that as we are listening and following the conversation, Lati, we are able to note down gaps that they have left out. Ngoba ithuba liza kuba khona ukuthi sibabuze imibuzo directly. Lokuthi sibatshele izikhalazo zethu esizaziyo nathi esizizwayo. So I am going to go to the next segment. For those abafike umhlangano siqalisile, this is an election debate series that is brought to you by the Election Resource Center, working together or in partnership with the National Youth Development Trust, working in partnership with the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, and the Abbas Patelama Camera Etu Bavela Center for Innovation and Technology. I noticed that we have just gotten another candidate, but at a higher level. Another candidate who has just walked in, the current Deputy Minister of Industry. He wants to be a participant. Ubawa Uraj Modi. We will ask him to just introduce himself, and then we continue with the next part.
Good morning. Salbonani. Linjani. Yeah, good. It's nice and cold weather today. Sorry, I wasn't sure whether to come or not, but then I said, no, let me go. After all, I'm also a resident and my constituency also, so I can't leave you. So I'm here. Is there anything that I can do? So I said, let me come and join you people. That's why I'm not coming here, I'm sitting there with you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ubabu Modi is the current member of parliament for this area, for those who didn't know. So I was saying, we are in an election debate series. We want to engage with our candidates, get them to get to where we are, and bring them to us. So we will have an opportunity to ask those questions. For now, I want to go to the next part. I want us, I know that, and I've seen some of the manifestos, the word manifestos. I want us to pick five things that are of priority to you as a candidate. That you are saying, if I am elected, these 5 things, residents from Ward 5, are the things you must measure my success on. So we just want you to give us 5 things. If you have less than 5, don't worry. You can give us those 3 top priority things or 2 top priority things. But don't go beyond 5. Because we want these people here to be able to say, we know the problems are huge, they are vast. You have 5 years, give us 5 things to which you will deliver on. So that's the next question. So I will start with the last presenter, Mr. Nkomo.
5 things that are of key priority to me as a council candidate. Number 1 would be regular feedback and consultation with the residents. Because I will not be able to address issues unless I can scratch weight issues, unless I understand the key issues. So regular feedback and consultative meetings with the residents. Number 2, development plans for all the 13 suburbs, because you can't be reacting all the time. So we need to plan for the next 5 years and come up with development plans which have budgets for all the 13 suburbs so that we are able to actually address the service delivery issues that affect us. Number 3, we have the issue of street lights, which is a safety issue. And I'm also proposing that we also introduce solar lights besides fixing the street lights. Number 4, in terms of infrastructure, we have the state of our roads, especially the feeder roads, the issue of potholes. It's a very critical issue that I would like to address in terms of the private-public partnership model, partnering with business, and so forth. Number 5 is the issue of projects, implementing outstanding projects. For example, we've got school projects in Newton West, clinic projects, and recreational projects. So those are the 5 key areas for me which I feel are very critical if you give me an opportunity to serve you as a councillor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babu Nkomo. We will come back to some of these issues just to get a little bit more. But let me give my brother from ZANU PF an opportunity. Thank you.
5 issues. Firstly, I think local unemployment would be high on my list of priorities. We have public works programs as a council. There's budgets for that. There's work that has to be done. The first thing I think I would make sure I concentrate on is that employment is spread across the ward. Right now, we have a problem with our public works programs, especially in the ward. They seem to be skewed. It's like it's not even. The spreading of the little employment that we can create with just what has to be done in our ward, it has to be spread across the entire ward so that everybody gets a chance to at least benefit from that little employment which is there. So one of the first things I would tackle definitely is the equitable distribution of the little employment that we can give as a ward. Secondly, I would look at what I spoke about earlier on, which is the recreational facilities and the recreational spaces. These are places that will deal with a lot of the ills in our ward. We have a lot of problems in our ward. We have alcoholism, we have drug use. We basically have these problems, which are soft problems. Problems like these can be solved by increasing our recreational assets. If we give these children places to go and things to do, and places where they can congregate and do healthy things, then those problems such as alcoholism and drug use will definitely go down in our community. Number 3, I agree with Mr. Nkomo, lighting. Lighting is a big issue in our ward. We have long roads. And a lot of our ward is medium density and low density. So street lighting is a big issue here, which maybe other sections of Bulawayo don't really have a problem with. Right now, we still even have sections of our ward where, if I'm not mistaken, I think is it Newton West? Huh? I think part of Newton West, there's an issue right now about the streetlights not belonging to council or belonging to council. And, there's soft issues like this where realistically, if we just pay a bit more attention, we can make headway. So lighting is massive as well. General beautification is a big issue for me. General cleanliness, I would try and clean up. As an individual, I'm just in general a person who likes cleanliness. I like a clean environment, and I believe a clean environment is what promotes pride of a people in their community. People are embarrassed to throw waste around if a place is clean. So that's a soft issue that we could also tackle easily, realistically. I would like to clean up. And also, like he said, accessibility is a big thing for me. I think the first thing I would actually do if I was lucky enough to become councillor is actually open a ward office where people can actually come every day and we can discuss these issues. And there's information, like I said, on the public works program. I would love to have a system where people who are looking for employment can just come to their office and just write their name. And we just have a list and we just work through the list as employment comes so that it's fair and everybody can work. Thank you.
Like ngeke ngatsho laphana ngoba mina inhliziyo yami ikakhulu kobo mama abemsika laba abangalanda zokusebenzela. So each number 1, I have designed ama bays that I would want them to be built per each shopping center, like 4 Winds, Bellevue, Stojiwe, Bagwele. I have already designed those ones that I would want to do this once I'm elected in office for the next 5 years. This is what I want to do. So my copies now, they're available. Maybe in the Tata numbers, then I can send it to the certain groups of my community. Okay, Sibili, centers on allow for my vending facilities. I have discovered that there are no toilets for abantu bemsika labana. They had to go back to existing buildings which are cela ukuthi ngisebenze i-toilet of which mina ngizama ukuthi ngibancedise ngilungise ama-toilets for those abantu abathengisa imibhida bomama bethu sebayakhela ama-toilets abo for health issues ukuthi hayi kule mkhuhlane njengabo-cholera etc bayakhela ama-toilets within those areas again into enzama ukuthi ngiyenze. Okwesibili kule issue employment creation esigabeni zethu we got youth that are not working. Udear brother Nkomo lapha ke wakhuluma ngokuthi i-ward 5 ilama industrial, and I think we've got Umula, Oma Chickens, we got guys who are doing construction in our ward. So Sabesmere City ama youth yetu, bepali samabizo habo, maybe through our community leaders. Bepali say we going to talk to those who are in the industrial, bencedisa abantwana bethu ku community yethu ukuthi bethole imisebenzi. That's the second issue. Then the third issue, the police visibility in our areas to combat crime. For example, Mankangele, Imatopos Road, lapana where there's the roadblock. Amapolice are very easy to see, you won't see them. Any times, then anything in Tando. So I have engaged the police would know. Tinazafungu to see yake ungama bases within either ama shopping center yetu kumbe kuma roadblock, because kuma roadblock sile matopos loba gcwele. I think those are the ngamatic areas amasela ngangena anytime behlukuluza abantu. Okwesithathu kule issue ye endawo zethu esihlala khona ngoba sengakhangela izindlu eziningi izindlu zakhona zilamajirawo azilama-fence and abantu particular abantu abahlala khona izindlu. So we try to encourage ama-tenants ukuthi no ukuthi sivikele amasela. That thina let's also play our role, silungise amajirawo afile singaphonga ukuthi amasela because amasela phela bangathola izinto zinjalo, they can easily walk in and start stealing. So thina as a community singapusha as a council there ukuthi no, let's have these things fixed. Kuyasincedisa kuyareduce into zobusela ezigabeni zethu. Okwesine kule issue ne-about watch, siyabe sifuna ukuthi masilele silala ubuthongo, singabe lokuthi sokuthiwa ngalo amasela sengena ngapha sokunjani njani. Kulaba abantu abanabethu abahlezi ezigabeni abangela imisebenzi, siyabe sifuna ukuthi each and every ward ibe labantu abagcina indawo yona abahlala khona apha esigabeni sona leso. Because for example in Four Winds we dama neighborhood watch abafana I think babevela kuma other high density areas, but still we have issue of cable theft yelokhu icontinue irregardless ibona bekhona because babebhadalwa izigaba ngama communities, but the thieves they continuously stealing ama cables. So we would want to encourage ukuthi sibe labantu abethu abagcina izindawo zethu thina singathola abanye abantu kwezinye izindawo. That's where kwesihlanu kule issue amabhini ukucollectwa kwezibi ezigabeni zethu. At times bayahamba 3 a month kungalamuntu othola izibi zicina vele sezisinika iproblem izinja lokho zikhipha zidabula amaplastic wela amapampers sokungcolisa environment yethu. So izinto ezihlanu enzama ukuthi nxa ngangena ngilungisa izinto ezinjalo. Siyabonga.
I think the issues that have been presented are very clear. I have 2 follow-up questions. Part of the reasons or the things we have heard at local authority level is that there is no budget. The reasons why things have not been done is that we are told continuously that there is no budget. And you guys have presented beautiful plans. How are you going to resource these plans to make sure that when we come back to ask you, you will not give us the common answer that there is no budget? So how are you going to resource these plans? This beautiful, he wants to build vending bays for women. Beautiful plan because it's going to assist our women, the women who are doing who are doing vending, not only to have safer spaces, but also to have spaces maybe to keep their wares so that they are not carrying them up and down. But how are you going to resource this? Where is the money going to come from? That's the first follow-up question. The second one, and I would like you to answer these questions at the same time, is beautiful ideas around employment. And I hear the concern, a lot of our young people are unemployed. Ordinarily, we wouldn't have a meeting like this on a Thursday at 11:20. These people should be at work, but they are not working. I hear that you are saying you are going to create employment. I hear that you are saying land is an opportunity. But there are private players who are going to be involved here. My company, if it comes to do work in Ward 5, I may not want to be told who to hire and who not to hire. How are we going to make these things feasible? How are we going to make sure that the private players prioritize local employment? What are our strategies? Those are my two initial follow-up questions. And to make it easy, we'll go back the other way around. Huh? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, let's start from the center. My apologies, sir. My apologies. My formula had a weakness. So let's start from the center. And then let's hear what are those things that we will do practically to ensure that we achieve these goals.
Luckily, my history is I'm an economist and I'm into finance. So finding money is my specialty in life. Finding money to get things done is actually my specialty in life. That's what I went to school for. So in terms of what you were saying, we alluded to the fact that we've got an industrial component and a commercial component of our ward. If you notice, a lot of corporate social responsibility around the whole town is done by those few companies which actually happen to be in our ward. Has anyone actually ever noticed that? Those companies in Belmont, they actually do a lot of charity and they engage in a lot of corporate social responsibility for other areas in Bulawayo, and yet they are situated in our ward. So that would be the first place to start. That would be the first place to harness. We would go out, we would reach out to these guys who are in our ward, and we would ask them to fulfill their corporate social responsibility element by actually driving that money into their own ward and their own surrounding areas. Another thing that happens around Bulawayo is some of the wards, they actually have development trusts. The way these development trusts work is they engage with city council-owned properties. Every ward has got many city council-owned properties. Right now, a lot of these properties are leased to private individuals and actually aren't leased to the ward development trusts. I think the building we are actually in right now is an example of that. So you would need one entity, which is a ward-based entity, which can engage into commercial leases with the council for these properties, because these are the same properties that we patronize, these are the same properties that we visit, and these are commercial entities. So the easiest place to start would be to have one form of a ward trust or a community trust which engages in all these commercial transactions with council. Obviously, as the council representative, it would be very easy to make sure or to ensure that the council trust or the ward trust gets the bulk of these leases. Once you have those leases, you commercialize them. What happens is you enter into these private partnerships that you were discussing with people, and then you make a deal, and you make a deal which is beneficial to the community. You make a deal that's going to create revenue for the community. So this is pretty much when we're talking about local authority and raising a revenue, this is pretty much the model which is used like worldwide. It's a pretty standard model. It just needs people to sit down and pay attention and make sure it's done. In terms of employment creation, if you get the answer to question 1 right, you obviously create a lot of employment for part 2 of the question. The first level of employment in any community, like I was saying, is public works programs, because there's already budget for that. There's already budget for clearing land. There's already budget for cutting grass. There's already budget for cleaning up. So the first thing you have to do is you have to make sure that that employment is utilized efficiently within the ward. For every cent or every dollar or every RTGS dollar or whatever which is spent by the ward on those activities should be channeled towards people who are from that ward to work in those jobs. That's the first one. The second way to reduce the unemployment is, like I said, when you've now entered into these partnerships, these commercial leases with private players, you then make sure that everything in terms of sourcing in terms of purchasing, in terms of the actual physical labor, you then make sure that the ward and the people within the ward are the biggest benefactors of the entire system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Munyoro. Mr. Munyoro, can you?
Siyabonga. Issue funding elikhulume ngayo mina as a person, as a family, we are actually running Keta Munyoro groceries, and also as a person running Duli's basement by 11th Avenue Jason Moyo. So I've created a mall that I'm working with my brother, and in terms of funding, we already have partners that we are working with. So in terms of funding, I am born because I'm partners. They've already advised me to know Munyoro angena office but they've already done that at Duli's basement opposite the FBC Bank by 11th Avenue Jason Moyo. They've said no, we'll support you, but don't review our names. We're gonna do this. Siyakwazi ukuthi wena ukhangela ukuthi ngo-2028 ma inkosi isigcinile I want to be an MP. So if I don't do that, please don't vote for me to be an MP. Because the partners have promised that. Yes, so in terms of funding, I'm safe. I don't have a problem. Yes, because I like it when they said, "Ma singayenzanga khona ukuthi ukuthembise khona 2028 nxa ufuna ngu-MP ungaqadi." Uhlubachele ukuthi bengakuvoteli. So I think it's a good guarantee on that one. Then so where issue implement creation, like our MC has asked us, implement creation yenza kanje mina mangikhethiwe, there's an MP obviously in my ward. Regardless ukuthi ngoya ZANU nge-CCC, we are just all people. Sivela kundaweni enye, we are one people, we are one Bulawayo. Simesincedisana u-MP vele ngiyafika ofisini yakhe ngoba u-MP happen to be minister. Minister mina njengokhansela ngile into le mfuna ukuthi ngiyenze ngicela lincedise kanje sincedisane because it's for our people. It's not about politics. It's not about ukuthi ugqoke ibhatshi liphi. We are all one people. So I'll be liaising with my member of parliament oyabekhethiwe for isigaba for employment creation. And mine say akhuluma lo mula wama chickens ngihambe even house states this abala industry ngikhulume labo through incwadi engabe ngizabhalisa lo MP wami ngihambe ukuthi hayi mina ngivela esigabeni esinje nansi incwadi lo MP wami uyamsekela ukuthi cela sincedise liqhatshe abantwana abesigaba zethu. I think that way I can achieve that. Sabonga.
Thank you, Mr. Nkomo.
Teme lokho behlisa imic oba mina. Yabona uArchibald Bruce vele there ba gifted kuyaphezulu ngale bali mina le vertical disadvantage. So I background yami ukuthi sengisebenza ku development sector for 23 years. Ngisebenza ku raise ama resources, ku raise ama funds for developing project proposals. So that's all I've done for the past 23 years. Raising resources, going to the embassies, developing, bidding, and so forth. So fundraising is one of my strengths as an individual. So how will we do this? Ku manifesto yami, ngilama administrative strategies angithi. Ngoba council can't deliver on development or service delivery nxa ingela mali. So number one, using this experience, funa ukuzama ukuthwina iwadi le Bulawayo with other cities. Angithi, we've heard of Aberdeen in the past. Kadesi kule Rotterdam, enjenge Bulawayo is the second city in Netherlands. We can actually twin Bulawayo and Ward 5 with that, so that they adopt Bulawayo and we're able to implement Amayama projects here. It's something that's very doable. It's something that can be done in terms of some of the things that I was talking about even the center on a label view, and the recreational center, that can actually happen. Ama projects, ama sports and so forth, that can be funded through twinning. Number two, kule ndaba ngithe ngasebenza ku development sector, kulama grants vele. Canadian Embassy, British Embassy, all those, and kulama grants vela we development. And I feel as Bulawayo, we've not been very proactive about that. Kulama grants some local authorities that you can tap into. And already, as I said, because I've been working in that space, it's very easy to build upon that, to continue with that relationship. Funding for local authority projects. Number 3, kule diaspora. Abantu abanengi e-diaspora are interested in investing in Bulawayo, are interested in investing in Ward 5, are interested in economic development, are interested in putting money in development in this ward, are interested in partnering us in reviving ama-centers anjengalawa, are interested in income generating projects, are interested in making sure that there's a turnaround in the economy of the city and the ward. So that's the third way. In partnership with them investment consortia as a diaspora. So, Jangu Bruce Archibald said, it's something that can be done, something that I already have in progress. Number 4, private-public partnerships. And it allow us to fund some of these projects. Some of these corporates were then able to implement amanyama projects as even though can be a private-public partnership. Can be a private-public partnership. That's the 4th way in which we can fund in development, the service delivery, in local government, we internal generated revenue. Revenue that is generated from within the council itself. And within council, we have the retention fund. And this is the word retention fund. So we have sibona ubani word retention fund yani 3% liyana iyasebenza ukuze ithuthukise i-ward. So ngamafitshane okuqakathekileyo is broadening the revenue base of the council, and sengikhulume about 5 strategies of broadening i-revenue base ye-council, so that lokho engikhuluma ngakho kungabi isifiso zikaThemba lo amkela, so that it's not pie in the sky but it starts on the plate. Ngiyabonga.
Bulawayo was known to be the cleanest city. We used to pride ourselves ukuthi nxa ukhangela idolobho la Bulawayo lalilihle clean, ku collect refuse, ku clean idolobho kube kuhle nje edrobheni. It is no longer the case. It's a challenge. Saying move from Ward 5 to the whole of Bulawayo. Bulawayo was known to be the industrial hub, which means that industry, which means our NRZ was here. There was a reason, because Bulawayo is at the center of SADC, Southern Africa. Your shortest distance to any Southern African country passes through here. It is no longer the case. Bulawayo used to house Itanlopla. We can make tires for the rest of SADC. It's no longer the case. I am asking my last question. Beyond Ward 5, you will sit in a council with the other councillors, 29. What will you do for Bulawayo? What do you think needs to be done now to get Bulawayo to its past glory of being the cleanest city? To get Bulawayo to revive its industries, to attract all the other industrial players back into Bulawayo? That is my last question before I give you audience a chance. This one, I ofuna kaqalisa. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right, siyabonga. Like our MC has said, sihlale edaleni ngabantu banye, whoever will be chosen on that particular day on the 23rd of August. Mbona ngani singafaka indaba yokuthi wena ukhokhela ibandla liphi kuzasincedisa. Sisebenze njengomuntu oyi-one. Let's not look at politics ngoba I think i-politics isizaffecte kakhulu ukuthi awona vele ngoyi-dynamos awona ngoyalinda so vele ngokwakho lokhu mina vele angikho lapho. But at the same time we stay in the same house, in the same suburb, in the same city. Imele ibe smart. Like you were saying kudala, it used to be smart because I remember kudala they used to do cleaning of the city about 7 p.m. Kusacha the chai ama night every day. You find that's what you were saying. Ubula was clean. It was every 7 p.m. Kusacha maybe about 12 midnight. Abantwana bedu babe to clean Bulawayo every day. You come the morning. Kati kula bantu ulo moyo utanyiro what's happening in Bulawayo. There were people babe kachi. We want to bring that. You know, as abantwana bedu ababuye bezosebenza beqalisa umsebenzi onalawo to make Bulawayo clean as he had said. And also kule issue kade ngani ngikhohleka ngibele nje emuva kancane kule issue ye transport. I-transport is affected the abantwana bokobulawayo. I-transport ma umuntu ugogo ngangena e-town sesiyagada imshikashika laphana i-language tone yankhona vele kuyathethiswana laphana vele abahloniphi, they drink, they do this. So we've got association like Buta labo Bulawayo Transit sizamela sikhulume labo thina as councillors ukuthi please ngicela lincedise isigaba sethu i-transport ye-Four Winds, i-transport e-Newton West, i-transport eNketa kumbe ngaba i-Bellevue wherever sikhulume labo thina as councillors. We can engage them besincedise ukuthi ngoba i-transport sector sesitwele senzima khathesi ma ngichayisa ngo maybe 7 o'clock ngifika esitho umjova so $1 mina $1 lakhona nilalo. So we're trying to resolve that ukuthi as a councillor mase singene phakathi sihlale phansi kungaba ngcono si regularize ama Honda Fit imshikashika ngikhona bebe part of Bulawayo Transit obubuta bebe le association so that i-behavior le ukuthi bayaphunga ukuthi bangazwatha sebelambile sebekhwezi imali sebesathenga amawoti, it's killing us. So kus affecte kakhulu i-transport sector abantu abahola akulazi imali. Thank you.
Thank you. They're debating.
See, most of the ideas, we share common ideas. I think in terms of making Bulawayo clean again, there are bylaws that are in place. And one of the roles of a councillor is a policy making or a legislative function, which is to formulate bylaws. So I believe we have to strengthen our bylaws that have to do with litter. They have to be deterrent fines. If you look at the fines that are there now, they're not deterrent enough. So we must put deterrent fines for litter bags. Because these days you find people throwing litter out of cars. Just throwing randomly, you know. So that make it expensive to pay a litter bag. So the first issue is bylaws and also compel every business entity to have a bin as well. They can put an advert. Every business entity, especially in town, must have a bin, and every business entity must be responsible for the space around them. This includes the informal sector as well. We must also engage the informal sector as well. You want to keep Bulawayo clean, how can we do it as well? So we approach but an approach of engaging. Number 4, do you know that litter is a raw material? You know that litter is a raw material. It can actually be processed. So that will be the second phase. In making Bulawayo clean, we're able to also industrialize Bulawayo by processing, by reusing, by recycling, whether it's glass, whether it's paper. You know, plastic, we can create energy from plastic. We can compost some of the waste as well. So those are new industries. I'm sorry to say you can't go to the Bulawayo of the past. It can't happen. We can't go back to Tizatunga. We have to rethink a new Bulawayo based on our new competitive advantages, because it will be very difficult, for example, for us to compete in cotton and textiles, because we'll be competing maybe with a competitor in China whose production costs are very low. So we have to think, what is our competitive advantage as Bulawayo? Is it transport, for example? Is it warehousing, for example? Is it IT? We've got NAST. But what is the connection between NAST and industry? There must be a connection in terms of innovation and in terms of industry. And maybe lastly, we need to also encourage the whole diaspora investment in Bulawayo. I think that's a low-hanging fruit. We need to organize investment summits and show them our investment prospectus in terms of what are some of the opportunities for you to invest. And because by nostalgia as well, and it'll be easier for them to invest as well. But let's reimagine Bulawayo. We can't go back to the Bulawayo of 1960 or 1970. It won't happen. And we have to rethink of new industries, green industries, recycling, energy, and so forth, based on our competitive advantages. Warehousing, because we're still central in terms of Southern Africa. So I believe we need to rethink, we need to reimagine Bulawayo, and it's very, very possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope your cameras are rolling here, because I'm going to do something that I don't think has ever been captured on camera. I totally agree with my CCC opponent here. It would be unwise to think we could ever return to be competitive in some of the industries which used to make Bulawayo wanted. Times have moved on. Technology has moved on. It's just what it is. That's nobody's fault. It's just what it is. It's about comparative advantage. The comparative advantage we have, like you said, liberty is our location. The one chance maybe Bulawayo has at being a powerhouse is in terms of warehousing and logistics. That's the one comparative advantage that we have, which is our strongest comparative advantage. Another option would be to try and incentivize companies to set up in Bulawayo. You understand? We all know that there's things like, on a bigger country scale, economically, we know there's export processing zones and all that stuff. But you can have a microcosm of bylaws which are company friendly, which will attract companies to actually come into Bulawayo. This is the one thing that you could do to try and re-industrialize and reinvigorate Bulawayo as an industrial center. You have to come up with company-friendly bylaws. In terms of cleanliness, we all grew up in a very clean Bulawayo. That's the truth. But some of these things, you have to analyze exactly where it went wrong and why it went wrong. We had a system in Bulawayo where the refuse collection and everything was done internally. This internal refuse collection system, it also ties into the economy of Bulawayo. This internal refuse collection system was also backed up by the people who used to make the bins. When I think this is Monarch. Monarch used to make those steel bins. That's employment creation, that's economic activity, right? Monarch has these bins and refuse collection is centralized, so it's controlled. Then you get a council that comes in and unbundles this thing and makes refuse collection pretty much a private enterprise. You're now hiring vehicles to collect trash, right? So we don't have these big cars anymore that have been going around collecting bins. We now have these private players who are charging us to hire their vehicles to collect trash. The ownership of some of these vehicles is, well, we don't know. Let's not go into the ownership of some of these vehicles, but let's just say there's private players now supplying the council with cars to collect trash. You've basically broken apart, or you've broken something which worked, and you've replaced it now with something that's created problems for us. Right now, we haven't even changed the bylaws yet that allow these small cars you see driving around collecting trash to enter the landfills. So what's actually happening, you see these small cars you see driving around collecting trash, they actually drive somewhere and offload that trash into those big cars we had before, and those big cars are the ones that drive into the landfill. That's actually what's happening right now with refuse collection in Bulawayo. So certain things, the bylaws, you then put in when you're in council. They start to affect you in terms of cleanliness, they affect you in terms of economy. Now Monarch is no longer making bins, people are fired, that economic activity is now depressed. So it's very important for us to understand the importance of bylaws and some of these laws and how they feed into both our economic situation and our cleanliness situation. In Bulawayo, we used to have a system where we had council farms. These council farms used to grow barley and those things which would then go, and that would be made into beer by Chibuku. Then we had the council big bars which would sell the alcohol. In economics, this is an entire value chain. You go from production, which is the farms, you go to manufacturing, which is the Ingwebu, then you go to the retail, which was the big bars, right? You lease out the farms, now you've got nowhere to grow the inputs. So now you have a bar in the middle that's either procuring expensive inputs, which means the resultant beer is now expensive. You get what I'm saying? And then you lease out the retail outlets, which was your retail arm. So where are you going to push your own product? So you end up making decisions where you've destroyed an entire value chain, which was very, very profitable for Bulawayo. People should know, a lot of suburbs were built, a lot of roads were built with money just from those bars. It was actually very profitable. So you can create value chains, but if you make the wrong decisions in a council, you destroy value chains and you destroy economic activity. So some of these things, it's just rethinking and sitting down. How can we create? How can we attract companies? What bylaws can we put in place which make Bulawayo a company-friendly place? And also, to be honest with you, how can we either, I don't know what it's called, whether it's called scrapping the bylaw or whatever, but how can we also go back to some of the things which worked before all this mess and all these new rules and new laws happened? So I'm someone who believes in internally creating revenue. I'm not necessarily someone who, like I said, I'm someone in finance, I'm someone in economics. If I can't find the money, my next option is to create the money. That's how simple it is. So we don't necessarily have to always look at who is going to come and assist us, because it can take a long time. You can wait for a long time for someone to come and assist you if you base your model on waiting for someone to come and assist you. So you have to be on the ground and you have to come and you have to be realistic on what you can do to actually internally create that money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you just joined us, we are in Ward 5, candidates election debate, which is brought to you by the Election Resource Center, working in partnership with the National Youth Development Trust and the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association. Sisibazwile, we've had our candidates. It's time for us to ask them specific questions. So here are the rules. Let's practice extreme tolerance. Allow the person who wants to ask their question freely. Don't interrupt them. Let's allow people to ask questions. Even those questions we don't like, let's allow them to ask those questions. Secondly, we are free to speak in any language that we are comfortable speaking in. If you want to speak in English, speak in English. If you think you can express yourself better ngesindebele, khuluma ngesindebele. If you think you can express yourself better ngesishona, khuluma ngesishona. Let's allow ourselves to express ourselves in a manner that would be clear to the candidates.
First, I would like to thank the three gentlemen there. And then my question to them is that I know that we are supposed to choose one of you to represent us. But suppose you are not chosen. Since you have showed us, you really love your ward, are you going to work with the person who has been chosen to help him lift up Ward 5 in? Umbuzo wamona lo. Nxa lithi lina lisithembile sibili and futhi liyayithanda iwodi le lisihlalise lapha lathi nalifuna ukusimela. Kumele sikhethe umuntu oyedwa. Singamkhetha umuntu oyedwa yona lo. Lina abanye liseleyo lizimisele na ukuthi lisebenzisane kuhle lena lo lisabe simkhethile njengoba lisithile ayithanda iwodi yini.
I've got about 3 questions. I'll be direct as possible. 2 for Councillor Dumisani, 1 for Councillor Archie, right? For Councillor Dumisani, I heard you talk about imposition of fines, which will make litter to be expensive, right? My question is, I would like you to elaborate how you would implement that with council, because we are in a situation whereby it is about who is going to be implementing those fines. If you're going to depend on those blue uniform council workers, you're going to have a situation whereby a fine is $50, but it's going to come and say, just give me $10 and you go. How will you handle that one? And then for Councillor Archie, my question now is the vendors issue, right? We have bylaws which talk about how the issue of vendors in the CPT has to be handled. How are you going to handle that issue in relation to litter? Because it has become cancerous to our city, right? And then for the 2 of you, right, what plans do you have towards the decentralization of wards in Bulawayo, whereby we don't have decisions being made at town house, but we have decisions where you as councillors are administrators of your own wards, which will make a development speeded. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My question goes to all the councillors there. I would like to know, do you own a property in this ward, whether it's a family house or it's your own property? And, Councillor Munyoro, you like to take my money, which I pay for it, and go organize vending base for vendors. Vendors, most of them, they are lodger. I wouldn't like imali yami ithathwe esebenziswa ukuthi develop lodger. No. Because most of them, they would come and go, just the tenants in ward yami. And secondly, there is the issue of beer walls, which used to belong to city council, and money which was generated from there used to develop Bulawayo. Road networks, there's a road department, a city council. And I would like that road department to come into action. And potholes since, and let me not confuse myself. The local, the ward retention fund, I think as a big ward, we should get a big chunk. Whoever is going to win, in fact, currently, I think we are the ward patalama rates, contributor rates amaning. So I'll need action on that.
Okay, siyabonga. Oba ukukhuluma ngokuthi okwezindlu hayi asingathola ithuba ukuthi lathi sibe ngezindlu. Actually angingabi lendlu. That means I'm renting from somebody also. So I'm trying to ngangena ukhansi sibe nama policies ayenza ukuthi iland ingasiduleri ngoba anje sathi sahamba empini, so land must not be expensive. And also we also wanted to ngoba lokho vele it's just go through government ukuthi as I reach at least 25 years I must be given land within my city of Bulawayo, ngingatholi inzima ngeland. Then sokuba issue libuzele ukuthi ungathathi imali yami useyenza lokho hayi lokho angisize ngiyakwenza ngoba what is happened now, I project esayenzayo eDulis was a bit tough project because I-council yayi-city Munyoro into ofuna ukuyenza kusigaba lesi ku-11th Avenue lo Jason Moyo ayisiyo zone yankhona ngathi lijoni bathi hayi vela kuvunyezwa lokho ngathi umthetho wankhona ubhalwe ngaphi banjengisa iphepha la ka 1976 ngathi surely sikubani kathesi. This is 2023. So it actually pushed me to say, no, let me go to council and fight for these things. I'm running a mall, he's running a mall. So it's probably the clash of malls again. So in terms of imali, I have already got the partners. I project engenza sengithola ama partners who are assisting me. Uthi sebenza Munyoro sibona ukuthi ule order sibili. Continue with the good work that you are doing. So imali yenyu baba angeke ngayithenga ngoba what I want to do is to create employment for abantwana bebe bezodinga indawo ngoba for your own information ama cubicles ethu ngama 3.5 by 2.5 square meters, $850, which is very affordable. I have taken people from Hardensly, Bulawayo Center, they're coming because they've been paying huge rent house, 4,500. It's business ngan. So I've got partners. Thank you.
Okay, there were quite a few questions, eh? The first one, madam, we were actually laughing with Dumi outside. We were discussing exactly what you were talking about. And outside, we had actually already come to the understanding that whatever happens, because we're both people who are quite entrenched in Bulawayo, we would work for the betterment of Ward 5, regardless of what happened. Because we knew each other before this anyway. So we would work together regardless. Number two, about a home or a family home in the ward, the answer is just yes. That's the quickest answer. Number three, you had asked about vendors. Okay, so about a month ago, I was with the CEO of Edgar's. The one on Joburg Road, the CEO of all of Edgar's, but we were discussing the closure of the Joburg Road. I think that's the Takawiran, that branch. So the CEO of Edgar says to me, at first I said to her, so what's going on? Why are you closing this branch? This is more deindustrialization of Bulawayo. What's going on exactly? And the answer to me was actually, you know what? It's got absolutely nothing to do with the vendors. It's got absolutely nothing to do with anything else. Our main problem is the Godini project. That's actually our main problem. She explained to me that the foot traffic of people going to and from Godini was actually very important to that Edgar's branch. Now, the reason I'm talking about this in relation to the vendors thing is the reason we have a vendors problem in the first place in Bulawayo is because of this slow progress on a project lay Ekodin. You understand? All those people had somewhere to go before we embarked on a 12-year project. I think, is it 12 years now? to simply have a retail area and a place for cars to park. So the delay in this 12-year project is what has caused the sprouting up of this vendor problem. It's not only a vendor problem, it's also a rank. If you notice, there's now a rank on every corner in town. It's because these people have nowhere to go. But these are economically active people. There are people, so inevitably they're going to look for a way to find means to an end. So a problem like that, if you nip it in the bud, if we had just done what we were supposed to do as Bulawayo over the Egodini project, I think when it was originally espoused, that thing was supposed to be over in 2-3 years. We wouldn't have this vendor problem. So when things are done properly, you avoid these problems manifesting in the future. So this is exactly what I would like to think, I would like to inject into the council, is to inject a sense of urgency when we're doing things is very important, because if there was a sense of urgency, there's no way you can embark on a 13-year, 12-year project if you're urgent and you want results. After the vendor question, it was you, Mtala, sorry. What? What was the question? Because I have my questions, there were many. Oh, the council property. Yeah, well, this current council decided to unbundle and lease out a lot of the properties and destroy that revenue stream as such. I mean, all we can do is come in, reverse some of these decisions, reinvigorate some of those revenue streams, and get back on an even keel. Was that all I'm done? Are you happy? And definitely, I won't take your money and give to the vendors. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of will we work together? Definitely, we'll work together. It's about development. We all live in the ward. So when there's no water, it's not like there's no water for a CCC person. There's water for sewer, stuff like that. It's all our ward. So we've got things in common. So definitely we are going to work together regardless of the result. I think that's very critical. Secondly, I'm trying to remember the questions. I think there was a question on the municipal police and their capacity to actually implement the bylaws. One of the functions of a councillor is the oversight role over council staff. So it will be our duty to make sure that the director of engineering, for example, delivers on that, or else we'll have to fire him. That's part of the oversight. No. We can't go to the ground and talk to the guys in blue. Our role as councillors, as council, is oversight, which means we deal with the directors of the different departments. So it is important for council to set timelines and targets in terms of litter and deal specifically with the director of that specific department if they fail to deliver. So I think that's it on municipal police. And then definitely on internally generated revenue. In Ngwebu, I think many of the schools, preschools, and roads were built using Ngwebu funds. It would be important for council to identify a vehicle that also generates, a business vehicle that also does that as well. Because as been said by Archie as well, council has a lot of property. So how can council generate the revenue from the property that it has? The starting point is an inventory of all council property. We have to know all the property that is owned by council. Who has that property been leased to? What is it being used to? What is the value of that property? And how can it be used to also generate revenue for the council? So I think that's my response. I hope I didn't miss on any.
I think on the issue of municipal police, underlying that was an element of corruption.
Yes.
Yeah.
Corruption has become contagious. As a nation, we have to deal with that. But we obviously have to have hotlines and ways in which we can actually, ordinary people such as ourselves can actually report corrupt council police. So it's an oversight thing again, where council has to make sure that on a daily basis, what's the total amount of fines that were collected? Is there any corruption? If there's any corruption, council then has to deal with that as well. So when you say keep Bulawayo clean, we're not just talking about the litter. We're also talking about the corruption. We have to clean Bulawayo of the corruption, as not just the litter, but we have to clean Bulawayo of the corruption as well, which has been also identified in other areas, such as even allocation of stands and people that also want to invest in the city. So it's a bigger problem. It's not just the blue guys or the yellow. There's the yellow green guys. Not yellow is yellow, but yellow is the parking guys. So it has to address more holistically, not just the municipal police, but addressing the issue of corruption in a very holistic, structured, and systematic manner. Thank you. I own a house. I own a 119 Moffat Avenue. I built it myself.
Thank you. So ubekulo baba lapha, so you will be number 1, Baba Lengwani. And then can I come this side? Number 2, can I take that hand, the ole blue cap, number 3? I'll come back to you. So those 3 questions first.
Vanohora mari varume vari kumberi ava ndomubvunzo wangu wokutanga mukandipindura ndozoenderera mberi. Chechipiri wangu mwana Nkomo uyu hausi kutsika tsoka dzemumwe akabva here uyu anzani Ruzive. Saka we 21 years une zvakanaka zvautaura zvandanzwa pa une pfungwa dzakanaka fanira ufunge. Zvino kuti wanga wakamirire wanga kuti Ruzive abve uzopinda iwewe. Wozoda kumbatsira handi muri kubva ukembi imwe chete. Nditerere sei ipapo. Vana vamwe chete vanhu naRuzive avo. Saka iwe wanga wakamirire wanga uchida kuti Ruzive atanga abve uzopinda iwewe. gadzirai ipapo kuti muzondipindura ipapo. Chimwe chechipiri chanaida ningobvunza. Handizivi kuti muri kumbozvionawo here zvekurirwa kumamita emvura aya. Ari kunyatsoverengwa zvakanaka. Ini ndakonewa ini kuzvinzwisai. Ndinobhadhara chaizvo, ndinoda tawo nyangu zvokuti heke. Asi
All right, thank you.
Mhlekazi Nkomo, bengicela ukubuza ngendaba zezidakamizwa ukuthi how are you going to tackle the issue of drug, substance and its abuse, since we know the situation in our communities, and how are we going to deal again with the pecklers? Is there drug pecklers? And then is there any possibility that are we going to see rehabilitation centers being built? And then question for all, how many days or how long each and every one of you, this is a one change. We have seen 100 days economic turnover. Now we're at 2023. So that's my question.
Thank you. To simplify it, guys, do you have a 100-day plan? Yeah.
My brother there, Mr. Chiponda, in your maiden statement, you mentioned something that cannot go unnoticed. You actually addressed the issue of social lives of the local residents. That is the biggest reason why most young people have been turning into the issue of drug abuse. Life is boring. I like the way you put it. You went straight from addressing social lives to actually constructing a park in the place, which is much needed, because I've been taking my daughter to Centenary just for her to see the green lawn, and that's it. You also mentioned the issue of availability of land. So you are going to address the issue of social lives by creating a park using the locally available resources, which is land. I liked that so much. And in the process, you are creating jobs. So I believe that is a very good statement that you gave us there. Now, my question is, having done all that, will you also include the local youth who do not believe in going to work in the industry, who do not believe in going to work in town, but are actually running their own programs? Will there be a community center, project center, where we can actually do these projects without having to take our projects to Kelvin or Makokova there? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen. Whoever wants to take it first. Yeah. Okay. The first questions were from Baba, with those 3 questions that were asked in Shona that I repeated. Yes. Yes. Do you have an income? The issue of what was it? Water meters. Yes. Yes.
Okay. I think maybe let's take it step by step. Then I'll answer person by person so that we can keep track. And yes, so that we can keep track. Income, yes. As you heard of the clash of the malls, which was talked about here. So yes, definitely streams of income. And I believe your question was actually directly to teacher or council and it. Are we going to get salary? I mean, well, I don't know. I assume the job comes with a salary of some sort. But unfortunately, I come from the camp of the Honorable Raj Modi. So if you know the Honorable, since he got into office, he has never taken his salary. He gives his salary to charity. So it would be impossible for me to come from the camp of the Honorable and accept a salary, also me. So I think I would take his example, and we would probably give the salary to charitable works in the ward. Number 2, water meters. The water meters are a problem. Even me myself, I consider myself to be quite educated, but I also can't figure it out what's going on with the water meters, because I believe there's a problem where they also move when some of the air which is trapped in the system. I mean, it all has to do with water pumping. These things were created. They weren't created for the situation we exist in, which is the water goes and then a pocket of air fills in the pipe in between. Then water comes, therefore it pressurizes that air and it pushes that air through a meter. So I assume this is why sometimes water cannot be there, but you still have a bill. And most of the time, council are estimating bills. They don't really read meters a lot anymore. I can't remember the last time I opened my gate for someone to come and read a meter. So this speaks to participation of people. Kudala, you know, people used to, I know people of my parents' age, they would actually take note of the meter numbers and know exactly their consumption and so forth. People don't do that anymore. So if you don't participate fully and you don't know what's going on, you're open to abuse. This happens, unfortunately. So my advice to people would be to just pay a lot more attention to those numbers and to actually know your consumption, because that's what people used to do before. If we were given the chance to go in and help with the system, I know that there's a free allocation. If you're aware, there's a free amount of water that we're actually allowed to use every month. It's actually a sizable amount. So where these bills are coming from, I have no idea. I would love to get into council as well and find out exactly what's going on with that situation. The next question was about...
It was Mr. Nkomo, drug and substance.
Oh, it's just to Mr. Nkomo. Okay. The next open question was about, in terms of projects and land. Yes. No, that's something that's close to me. Like you said, that was pretty much my opening statement. Projects, we have lots of land. There's the opportunity for having, whether it's community gardens, whether it's the brick-making projects. We currently have, under the Honorable, a brick-making project just a stone's throw away from here. It's pretty much all about keeping the youths busy. I would love to create as much space as possible of the abundant land we have for some of these projects. Definitely, that would be one of the things I would concentrate on immediately when I came into office. As for 100-day plan, I have a day one plan, my friend. On the 24th, as soon as they finish counting, I'm going straight to work. So I think my first thing, like I said before, day one, if I'm lucky enough, I think the first thing you will see is the opening of the ward office. You would probably see that on day one, because that would be the first day to start going to work, obviously. I think that's all. Anyone left unanswered? No? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nkomo.
I think there was also the unanswered question about how we're going to devolve or decentralize. I think we already have infrastructure in Bulawayo. Some of these places can become housing offices so that we decentralize. It also speaks to the issues of offices and so forth. Then there's the issue of substance abuse. It's a huge problem. You'll be shocked that children from the ages of 11, 12, up to 50, there's a whole generation that will be wiped out and which is likely to die before you. That's the reality. So we have to look at prevention. How do we prevent drug abuse? So there must be a lot of awareness, because in our ward and in our city, there's a lot of crystal meth, for example. It's readily available. It's cheap. And at times, when some of the guys rob your houses of the TVs and so forth, they're not actually interested in the TVs. They're interested in that thing from the TVs which they actually abuse. Did you know that? So there has to be a lot of, first of all, there's awareness, and then there has to be dealing with the people that are actually living with drug abuse right now, rehabilitation and counseling. Currently, counseling is rehabilitation is very expensive. It's something like $600 to $1,000. So most people cannot afford that. So we have to think of accessible rehabilitation for substance abuse. I don't want to call them abusers, because a lot of them may become victims as well. So we have to think about prevention, awareness, mitigation, rehabilitation in terms of that. But again, holistically, in terms of the whole life of young people, that speaks to recreation, their social lives. You know that at times, even if you ask them to come to a youth center, they won't go there because they are smart. They believe in gadgets, internet. So if we make these places smart, just put Wi-Fi in some of these places. It's not actually as expensive as we think. You find that young people are more engaged in that. So we have to think about ways in which we can keep our young people engaged. Otherwise, we're going to lose a whole generation between ages of 13 to 40. That generation is going to be wiped away. So I've got a real passion for that. And I'm hoping that we'll have a rehab center, maybe in partnership with other people, that can take care of our young people that are struggling with that. As for income, like my colleague, most of the things I do are voluntary, like 80-90% of the things. And I'm not going into council to get rich. No. That's not my intention. I believe in servant leadership, and 90% of the things I do are voluntary. And I'll continue with that. 100-year plan, 100-day plan, no. But I think I've divided into short-term, medium-term, long-term. What things are doable in the short term that don't require a lot of money? What things are doable in the medium term that we ourselves can do with a little bit of financial support? And what things, especially infrastructural things, can be done in the long term, and where do you get the funding? Because it takes time to actually generate the resources for that, whether it's internally generated or externally or whatsoever. So I think those are my responses. I hope I answered satisfactorily.
Thank you, thank you. Which one? Oh yes, were you waiting? Were you waiting for the other guy to leave?
Okay, what applies in the local must apply to the national. I'm joking. No, not necessarily. I believe the work that I was doing before is almost the same as this one, except that this one is more formal now. Yeah, you're a councillor. But already I was involved in advocacy for bylaws, for legislation. I was involved in development work. I was involved in oversight. I've sat in about 15, 20 boards. So it's service. It's saying, okay, I'm willing to serve. I'm sick and tired of describing problems or being part of the. So when you describe your problem, you're part of the problem. So for me, it was like, okay, let me be part of the solution instead of always criticizing all the time. Let me be part of the solution instead of always criticizing the councillor, criticizing the MP. How can I be part of the solution as well? That's the reason why I chose to run. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me take my, too many hands now. It was supposed to be my final round, but so if you feel your question is different, please ask it. But if you feel it's the same with the other one that was asked, please allow another person to ask. I was going to say to the three gentlemen here that one issue that was raised was around the meter reading. It's also a confidence issue for revenue collection. If I can't read my meter, I don't understand the figures, I'm likely not to pay. So let's help our communities to understand these bills so that they have confidence that this is my bill, and therefore I have the responsibility to pay. So I think it's a big issue in the communities. I think it has been coming up that people feel the bill is not theirs. So because they think it's not theirs, they also feel no obligation to pay. Yeah. So the next round of questions.
Did somebody speak about the parking systems in town, where if you go, you have to pay $1 to park? Yet you want, let's say some of us who stay here, you want to go to market, you have to park your car 15th Avenue and walk to the market. If we go to the market with the car, there is a parking space, you should pay $1. So that you buy, when you are buying your tomato, pocket of tomatoes, you have to walk to 15th Avenue. So
Yeah.
I did not understand whether there's somebody who talked about it. What are they going to solve that problem? Because there's no facility that pensioners cannot pay. Everyone who is good driving should pay. Even if you are crippled, you pay.
Okay.
Archibald, Dumisani and
Bruce
Munyoro. I'm speaking as a Ward Development Chairman for the whole Ward 5 now. And it's not a question. It's just advice for any of you if you win. In September, I might retire from voluntary service in September. So this is what we have got, a challenge for you, the three of you, any one of you who's gonna win. Challenge number one is the school, Newton Primary School, which we started working on in 2012. Government offered us the land and we put in the ball and the fence. We are supposed now to build the school on our own. Council said it did not have money. I don't know, as you come in, maybe you will talk to council about availability of funds now. I like the idea, Archibald, where you are saying we need to register a trusteeship within the community. That should be done by any of you when you come in. The residents, I've got our chairmen around here. They are ready to help you, so we establish that trusteeship so that we can own the school. That way we can look for the funds and build our school, okay? The next problem is the one here right now where you are seated in here. This is the club, is supposed to belong to the community of Ward 6. It's belonging to an executive. And the lease expired when? 2010, I think. 2010. So we would like you also to rationalize and work on the lease so that the lease comes back for this club to the community, not to the executive that is running the club now, okay? Thirdly is we have got Inkunzi Beer Garden. I've seen him, Honorable Modi has already left or is around, but Archie or Dumi or any of you who are seated behind here, we need an investor for our project. We've been talking to some white guys, but I think they failed because we are going through our last month. Council will go out.
Thank you.
Mr. Zulu and his chairmen don't have the money. That's your...
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My question is, what are you going to do with the vendors that are full in 5th Street and the 6th Avenue, all that and all that? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let me take those two questions. Okay, just briefly, yes. Yeah, you can ask your question. Yes.
Okay, my apologies for coming late. Maybe I'm going to ask you councillors. My questions you are going to be writing on your phone. No takati one day.
Please ask only two, because we are running out of time. Okay.
But zinoda explanation.
Okay.
Mibvunzo yangu iri on two issues: devolution funds and my ward retention funds. As a resident, I have suffered immensely from the previous holders of power in this area. My funds are not released, my funds are negaripo. I say because they have a different ideology. Vanoteerera zvinenge zvatarwa nevakuru vavo. Kana kwanzi kune ma-devolution funds, apply. Kana zvanzi kune ma-ward retention funds, havatori. Asi vakatora vanoita zvavanoda nawo. This is a question to you, Mr. Nkomo. In as much as Makuya to replace, you are still coming with the same ideology. How are you going to assist us and save us? Inindaneta, nekuti kwindinogara kuri kudilapidate, but your ideology will never change. Munoramba murichi an opposing of another force. Then imwe issue ndeyekuti in as much as tichifamba as ma-residents, tinodivhetwa zvonzi, the ruling government, thuggery and thievery, but chokwadi tinenge chichichiziva. Ndo zvindoda kunyatsonzwisisa kuti muchandibatsirawo sei kana imimi mapinda mu-authority. Then chimwe futi ndechekuti you are coming from a legendary family inotozikanwa kuti ine ukama neZANU PF. If is there a possibility yekuti munhu, we have seen instances yekuti munhu they wanojumpa, they jump a boat.
Yeah.
Then the other one now goes to the
those
other
are your
ones.
two questions. Please,
Alright.
let's give others a chance.
Then devolution funds. I was seeing on television zviriitwa neZANU PF in Country Park. And ndinoda kubvunzawo kuna vari kurepresenta ZANU PF kuti do you have anything tongoti zvongoitikawo zvokuti munotibatsira tonoma opportunities acho as a ward. Tikatarisa zviri kuita pacorridor yeChabalala pana Nyaradzo pane Oceans mukazvitarisa zvakanaka. Isusu tino ma-areas edu tinewana Morningside shops, tinana Badgwele. You are an economist. Chichi mungaitewo kuti zvinake sezviri kuitika paroad iyi inana Oceans nana Nyaradzo.
Thank you very much. Those are the questions, gentlemen. Mr. Munyoro, I'll start with you, and then.
Okay, thank you very much. Ubaba uqale ngikubuza indawo ukuthi they are looking for partners to help this indawo le ukuthi ibe because maive ngikhangele phezulu lapha mbona ngani yaxegaxega and we are already in business. We can assist to get indawo ibe functional, like mbona kulama darts laphana. We can talk to our partners to bring our pool tables to have ibe in activity, because I can see there's a kitchen that is running, but bengabe bepheka izitshwala ziyadliwa ngubani ngoba i-industry ngapha kulabantu. It's just a quiet industry. Sizancedisana on that matter. Then the other question was
parking.
Okay, the issue of parking. Masi singenile ku cancel. My proposal ukuthi kule issue ama senior citizens. I think it's 65 and above, right? Yes, ukuthi bengabhadali. I think kungaba ngcono kulungiswe silungise ama stickers esizafaka ezimoteni zabo ukuthi hayi loba chabandaba ngaba these are our bosses asibachiyene benjalo. We work on that. Then another proposal ngemali yakhona ebhadalayo ukuthi $1 per hour. Mbona ngani imali le inengi kakhulu. People they cannot afford that. So Samuti se propose at least from 8 a.m. such a 12 in the afternoon kube $1. From 12 midnight such a 12 afternoon such a 4:30 ibe $1. So at least a day singabati sibhadala at least $2 a day ngoba we are saying takaenda kuhondo tikanorura nyika yedu. Let's translate that ukuthi no, let's have ama fair rates on the citizens, because mase abhadalisa sure $8 a day, yet I can't even make $5 a day. Akusincedisi ngalutho. Siyabonga.
Thank you. A very clear proposal.
Okay. Parking issue. The parking issue. We were amongst the pioneers of tackling TTI. I myself, as an individual, this is something people can go check. It's not a secret. When it began, they were charging an hour per bay wherever you parked, which basically meant if you parked here, you pay $1. If you moved from that bay within 20 minutes and you went and parked somewhere else, you would pay a fresh $1. If you remember, that's how it started. The way I tackled that, I just wrote a letter to the town clerk and to Uwongani from TTI. I know him. He's a local boy, actually. He went to South Africa, but then he came back. He's a local boy. So I wrote them a letter, and we unpacked the deal, and it was questioning, and we put the numbers in and the potential of money they were making. And that's when they changed, and they started doing $1 in terms of an hour, wherever you park. So some of these things, it's about participation and it's about action. If people don't get involved and don't tackle these issues head on, nothing will happen. So if you would like me to tackle the issue for the elderly, it's okay. I'll just write another letter. Don't worry, something might happen. I'll just write you another letter. Then we'll see where we get on that issue. Angithi mta? For free. Okay. It's just too much. Yeah. It's just too much, of course. So definitely, if we, even whether or not we get into office, these are issues, like I'm saying before, I was not even in office before when we took them on over that issue. So these are issues which are close to our heart. So it's definitely something I can look into on your behalf. The other question was about
developmental projects, developmental corridor, like what's happening.
Oh yes, a developmental corridor it's of course it's more about the socio-economics of the area. Is the area prime for that? If you look in our ward right now, at Four Winds, you're aware, at Four Winds there's actually a redevelopment of that retail area. So it's all about working in tandem with the property owner. And you have to figure out the desires, of course, of the property owners and how, as a community together, the property owner and yourselves can work for a common solution. Because at Four Winds right now, they're revamping the whole area. There were some issues with the vendors who were there. I think maybe they felt like they were going to be pushed out by this new development. So you simply sit the property owner down, the people who are working there down, and you can't fail to find a solution. So definitely this is something that I would like to spread to other commercial areas within the ward. All of these things, they begin with a conversation. That's the first step to all of these things. So we've started the conversation in some places, and I'm sure we will continue the conversation in other places. Mr. Zulu had asked about vendors in 5 Street. Oh, I'd spoken about the vendors in 5 Street issue. Let continue open, and then that situation will solve itself, because it's zoned properly. There's a certain amount of commercial area. It's a problem because they have nowhere else to go. So angeke sebaxotshe, because they're also trying to make a living. Because even if you look around our ward, it's not exactly every commercial activity around our own ward which is zoned or supposed to be happening. But because it's a community and people have to find means to an end, you just have to find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nkomo?
I think definitely the issue of TTI has to be reviewed. The contract has to be reviewed, because every contract has got certain clauses about tenure, about terms and conditions. So definitely it must be reviewed, and definitely we must also hear from residents as well what they feel about that. My father is 94 years old and he has been claimed a number of times in town. I'm serious. He's a pensioner, so at times he gets confused. Why are they claiming me? Where do I go? They need to walk a long way to go and pay a fine. I think many people have been claimed here, also worried about the behavior of those young men. So definitely it's something that must be reviewed, so that we have a system that works in the best interest of the residents and the citizens of the city. So we have to look at the contract and what it actually says. I think, ma'am, you raised the issue about ideology. My ideology is an ideology of development, and I think I tried to really talk about that right at the beginning, to talk about my manifesto and my person having a DNA of development. That's what I've done over 23, 24 years. So I don't see any contradiction. In terms of family, in my family we've got different political persuasions, and I'm happy that we are politically tolerant and mature to accept each other's political affiliations and loyalties. And I think as a country, we need to get there where politics is not a matter of life and death. But it's like here today, where elections are about a contest of ideas. It's about ideas, it's about policies. It's about what do you actually deliver as an individual, what to deliver as an institution, what policies do you have, what ideas do you have. So that's where we are in terms of that. Mr. Zulu, definitely the outstanding projects, he talked about Newton West School, he talked about the Nkonzi Center as well. We need to collectively as residents find ways of building at least one block. Because I think people will get discouraged, we will all become discouraged if there's no movement. But if I go in, the idea will be how do we at least make sure there's one block? So if there's one block that is constructed or there's some activity, or at least you get to foundation or slab level or whatever, you know, it encourages people to come in and support that. I talked about the whole lot of people in Newton West, Bellevue, Morningside, that are in the diaspora that actually want to come in terms of development. So probably that's an avenue that we could look at, whether it's a trust or whatever vehicle we decide it to be. I think diminishing returns are beginning to creep in. The last question, I think that was it. It was the parking issue. The vending issue, as has been said, is a symptom of a bigger structural problem. It's a symptom of a bigger what? It's a symptom of a bigger problem. So we have to look at again, how do we do our zoning as well? And how do we make the informal sector part of the formal sector as well, so that people are not living in perpetual poverty and we're celebrating poverty. But how can we help our informal traders as well to have more opportunities? To be like Kenya, for example. You know, the Kenyan economy is not based on big companies or big corporates. It's based on the small woman, the small men, your small players. So I think we need to have bylaws and policies and local economic policies that encourage the small player in the market space so that they grow, they've got access to credit. There's policies that enable them to actually grow and not become perpetually informal. So that's my contribution to that. But at the same time saying, okay, whilst doing that, make sure that the city is clean. Make sure that what you're selling is clean. Because if you're selling sausages in the city center, can you have to think, okay, how do we balance that? What about the health issues? So we need to have that balance as well. Okay, how do people continue living, but at the same time, the city is clean. At the same time, the people that are selling are safe as well from diseases. So I think that balance is needed.
Thank you. Right, we are slowly moving towards the end of our meeting. So I will do two things. Unfortunately, I'll take two, and then I will allow my panelists in responding to also give their closing statements. So one question from this side, one question from this side. So I have a bias towards young people. So ogo akhuluma hayi ungaphakamisa isandla vele. All right. So let me take umama la. Yeah. One, so I have a woman, so I'll take, that gentleman there, with a maroon shirt. Right. So those are the two. And then we close. We allow our panelists to close, and I will invite somebody from the Election Resource Center to be getting ready to do the closing remarks after we have responded to these questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bemfisa ukukhuluma kulapha ngiyabonga isikhathi asekho kodwa hayi vumani ukukhuluma. Ngithanda ukubonga abafowethu young people aba contributile lapha. This is a clear sign that council 2023 we want priority on young people. Let's have a priority on young people. Then coming to the what my contribution is, before I go and apply for a scholarship on Joshua Nkomo Foundation, as a what, let's have an education fund. Before I go and apply outside, as a what, let's have a priority on education. We talk of our constitution, it promises us free education. Section 75, we talk of SDGs, that is goal number 4. We talk of whatsoever. So education, Nasi City, Zimbabwe is not isolated, does not belong in a vacuum. We belong in a global competitive landscape. How can we be competitive? Let's invest in education on young people. Education, my councillors, next time, the next 5 years, education,
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Umama lapho. Yeah, yeah.
Mina ngizakhuluma ngesintu kwenzela ukuthi ngicace.
All right.
Otherwise isikhiwa singaniluma la. Mina ngifuna ukubuza ngesecurity. Isafety yabantu nje. Ngoba ubuselo bulapha so usiba too much. Abantu they are being balinyazwa. Njengami ngavela ngazala abantwana abathathu. Bonke sebehambile. Isenhlala ngedwa. So ngilala mpromise ngithi zwana ngizakudubula khona. Uzachaza abanye bakho. But it's vain. I love power. 1. 2. Ilokuzeni istochiwe. The living conditions azikho right lezi. Lithini ngazo lizakwenzani ngazo. 2. F3. Ilokuzeni izesa bantu akela isincede le security. It still goes le security. Amacables atshontsha lapha eBellevue le Newton West. Vele sesiphambene. Yithe sithenga ama aluminium. Kuthiwe siyobhalisa ezesa siza refundwa. I-refund yakho nalizulu leliyane libuya ngoDisemba. Kodwa lapha vela likaze line lelwe lemali yama-cables. Sicela ukuthi uCouncil ozangena hlakanipha usivikele. Kube le ndlela ezasebenza isivikele ngoba ezinye izinto lezi liyakwazi ukuthi njani lihlezi khona lapha liyasipromise. Kodwa sizabe sigqoka ama nylon ngesikhathi somqando. Kungala hita kungalani. Asiqale ake sibe genuine. Lingasikhombisi silikhombe kodwa singaboni lutho. Sife indlala.
Yeah.
Sikhonjiswa sonke labo baba. Akekho ukuthunga phandle. Ngoba iqiniso lonke lipheleleyo from 6 o'clock khathesi ngewinter kuyaphangisa ukuba mnyama. Abantu lapha they are being marked. Street lights asila but siyabhadala ama rates akhona. By the way, okunye bayithi ngicela ukuthi uTTI lwana nafuna ukuconfessa la kuphume enyuzini nangabatshela ngathi ambhadali endambhadali ngabatshela kuhle ngathi mina I have worked for this city for it to be like this. I've worked. So angisoze ngifela mahara. 48 years ngisebenzela iCity Council to see it falling apart. Sinezibade sisebenza hayi ngitsho madoda. Ake lisikhuphela ama vendors lapha. Kuphani nama vendors hayi ungambonga ngaqedi.
Isikhathi mama.
Yeah, isikhathi ngesabantu, isikhathi ngesikaNkulunkulu. Anyway, enza zami kulitshela khona ukuthi ake lilungise iissue yedorobheni phakathi. Uthi nxa udlule emkotweni kunika umchemo, kunuka ingcekeza. Hayi, imali yakhona yokuthi abantu belatshwe akula mithi emakliniki. Akula mithi lizakwenzani ngemithi? Bo councillor libe bahle libe njalo lithulele njengesheneni sesikhwameni but do something for us. Amen.
Siyabonga mama. Very, very strong points. Ngiyathemba bazwile. Can we have our last closing? We respond to the questions and then our closing statements. And ERC, please get ready to come and give us closing remarks. Bruce? Yeah.
Sabonga, si zila kukunyo masalu, like I said before, issue ma parkings, uti, umama uti usebenzi cancel for 48 years. We expect uti tina masingero cancel, gube lama, at least ama tags, achu kuti hai, this is a VVIP. Laba ngama citizens, sina citizens. Uthi kusebenzeke kube into enhle singajonisi sibali ukuthi umama uyahlukuluzwa because abafana bana vele ngabafana abancane and bale ginger, they can do anything. Ukhuluma babhizi bafaka insimbi. So bangabona stick, I think they will respect that. Then when it comes to issue yamasela etc, like I said before, sizama ukuthi sikhulume lama police ukuthi at least each and every center, like for example sibe le base esidojiwe, sibe le base ivinda pa Bellevue Center, sibe le base e4 Winds. Let's at least singaba lama bases each and every shopping center kuyasincedisa ngoba we've already interacted with the police officers, but no lena zilongo kule into yokuthi siyakwanisa ukusebenzela, we'll give you the officers, asila problem okungekhoyo akulandaza ukuthi bayahlala. So we want to work on that sibancedise. Lami semvalelisa umhlangano lo okwami mina engifuna ukupromisa kona, like for example kule issue yokuthi employment creation, abantwana bethu they're busy doing ama-drugs. The first thing enzizama ukuthi siyenze, we got ama-shops in the CBD of Bulawayo that are occupied by foreigners, like ama-Nigerians. I think they're the majority ones, like Chinese also. We want them to go to the industry. Bengangeni in the CPD of Bulawayo. This should do for us, the communities, not for foreigners. Things ama Chinese shop, ababezovuli industry. Bengeni ngoba got too many ama industry that are ama white elephant. They must go there. Befake izinto zabo beyodisela industry. Bengangeni CPD of Bulawayo. That we want to change that. Thank you very much.
We have your polycons, your neighborhood watches, and everybody's got their own neighborhood watch and all this going on, but still, tackling crime you take a two-pronged approach to tackle crime. You look at obviously the physical things. Street lighting is a problem. If it's dark, chances are more crime can occur. So something as simple as improving the street lighting situation will grossly improve the security situation as such. It's practical. If it's light, people steal less. So some of these things, we have to then look at the root causes of why we have amanyama problems like lighting and so forth. And if we tackle them, we'll help with security and the crime. Another issue is like we were saying with the young men there, you also sometimes need a holistic approach, because the same people, Dumi alluded to it, the same people who are breaking in to steal your things are the same people who are partaking in drug use. So when you look at security and you look at crime, you have to now tackle it from all those angles. Kuti, if we can keep them a bit busier so that they don't fall to drugs, then the security situation will improve. So I think I would like to try and tackle it from more angles than just one angle. As for Isitika, we've spoken about it. I'm sure you've seen me in that building many times talking to the town clerk. I'm somebody who's always at the town hall having these conversations with the town clerk and trying to make things move. So we'll continue to try and do more. All we can do is continue to try and do more. The other one was a statement, so let me wrap up. Community development, realistically, a community has what we can say are community assets. It's just like a company, and community assets, they're either physical assets or the human asset, which is the people who live in the community, the environmental asset, which is the state of the environment which you live in. So when you want to develop a community, it's just like a company. You develop these assets such that the living experience of people in that community improves. That's the whole point. These assets exist, these buildings, all these social clubs, these what, they're just community assets. And the point of those assets is to make your lives better as a community. So all the work I will do will be focused basically on improving the existing assets as well as increasing on the asset base. Mr. Zulu, you spoke about we need a school in Newton. Of course, we can't expect people from Newton West kids to come and learn what's it called, Greenfield. It's just too far. It's impractical, let's say. So when you improve, when you add schools, when you improve clinics and so forth, you're improving these assets. So that's what my tenure, if I'm lucky to get into office, is going to be all about. And for it to work, ladies and gentlemen, we have to work together. For it to be successful, it has to be community-driven. You can't just send me and just say, we've put a councillor. No, it doesn't actually work like that. For it to work, we have to participate. It has to be like a partnership. Because when people are part of something and they have ownership over that thing, whatever we do, whether we say, right, we want to have a park, let's clear an area, plant some grass so our kids can play there. If it was community-driven and people actually participated and we helped each other, even when you now see others abusing those assets, because you feel that ownership over that asset, the community then protects that asset. So we need to get to a stage whereby, as much as we're focused on developing, we're focused on doing it together in partnership, so that the community also has ownership, then we work together and we make things better together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Siyabonga Mama. Kuqakathekile ukubana uBulawayo ahlanzeke ahleleke. Ngeke ngakhuluma ngakho eqaliseni ukuthi ke kumqoka njalo ukubana sibe lemthetho eqinileyo ama bylaws. Okwesibili implement njalo ama bylaws angikhona. And then over to the issue of safe cities again, I think Archie has also spoken about that, Lo Bruce. Indaba yama street lights ngikhuluma ngakho eqaliseni as well. And possibly also thinking about ama solar lights as well. But these days bakhuluma renewable energy, not relying on ZESA and so forth. So I think indaba yama street lights, solar lights, it's a low-hanging branch. Esingayi addressa. Then ama residents asixoxayo, for example, kuPopular lapha, ama residents basifakela ama street lights. So ama residents abenza njalo, I believe councillors would give ama rate incentives to those people to sebenza development enje sesinika incentive njengoba lenze into enje. So but over and above that, obviously in terms of safe cities, safe neighborhoods, kumele siqinise ama neighborhood watch committees. Lapha engihlala khona eNewton West, at one stage there was a cable theft every other day, and we're debating whether or not the residents sifaka amagedi lawana, but then that was outside our province. So issue of street lights will help in that. Issue of strengthening community policing, issue of kulamaganga amanengi that need to be cleared, which make it easier for criminals to operate. So the issue of safe cities, clean cities for me is very, very important. Maybe councillor ulama roads I4. So I don't want to promise things that I'm not supposed to do. Don't go into the kitchen. So the roles of a councillor are very clear in terms of the Urban Councils Act. Number one, a councillor has got a representative role, representing the community. So I'm saying, okay, if I come in, I've got a duty to represent the ward, to ZESA, to government departments and so forth. Number two, councillors have got a policy-making role, developing bylaws that ensure that the city is clean, the city is safe, there's investment in the city. Number three, councillors have got a developmental role to ensure that there's development in a ward. Projects. Number four, councillors have got an oversight role. Councillors are supposed to make sure that the different committees, the different departments work effectively. So it's important, I'll limit myself to that, what a councillor is supposed to do, those four things. So it's macro, it's national. But who councillor has got those four roles. So as a person who believes in community development, I believe every suburb, all the 13 suburbs in Ward 5, must have development plans. Singareact kuphela. So funakala street esesifile. Lokho akusekho. No. Each suburb must have a 5-year plan with a budget. How much will it cost to do this? Bese sikhangela ukuthi imali yakhona izavela ngaphi. Will it be internally generated? Do we need to look for it outside? So I believe it's one of the key things that we need to do, and it's one of the first things that I want to implement. Ngoba singabulokhe sireact ukuthi sokubi street light, sokulama potholes. We'll spend 80% of the time reacting to issues. But if we've got 5-year plans per suburb, I know you can't hear what Baba Zul. 5-year plans with a budget per suburb would be more efficient in terms of service delivery and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have heard your candidates. The onus is on you. The ball is now in your court. Mhlaka 23 August. So kumele liyekhetha elimthandayo. Likhethe based on the promises that they have made. Let me invite the director of the Election Resource Center to come and give us the closing remarks.
Ibizo lami nguBarbara Dube. Ngingu director we Election Resource Center. Ngisukumele ukubonga. Sithanda ukubonga ukuthi lonke libuyile lapha to listen to our candidates. Ngithanda ukuqala ngikhangele ngapha kuma candidates. Ngizabonga ngiqala ngoDumi. uDumi sisebenze kakhulu sonke ku civil society esese Habakkuk Trust. We can see now you are on the other side, but I'm sure we are still working together. I would like to thank you for attending this candidate debate. City candidate debates, without the candidates, akubi lo mhlangano. So sizwile some of the promises that you've made. You spoke about ama street lights. You spoke about leveraging diaspora investment to develop the ward, and that's something that's commendable. You spoke about quite a number of things. Tina, as the Election Resource Center, in partnership with the National Youth Development Trust, the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, we believe in an electoral cycle based approach. So ama candidates libazwile bathembisile sizaphenduka njalo lapha sesizobabuza ukuthi sebenzeni lo zabe ephumelele, and labo abangasoze baphumelele bachila ukuthi if they are not going to make it, they are going to work with the successful candidate. So we will be back here in a couple of months. Kuyona leyi hall sesisiza ukuthi sebenzeni. Sithanda ukubonga njalo Archibald from the ZANU PF party. You brought in quite a number of ideas. You spoke about building on the current asset base, a ward, enhancing it, and also bringing in new asset base. And I think that's something that's quite commendable. And longeli kanyalela ma ideas that are quite exciting, and I'm sure Soksia ngani njengezakhamizi ukuthi who are you going to choose? Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Munyoro, thank you so much. Again, we just want to say thank you for being here. You spoke about the vendors. It seems to be something that is in your heart. And siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi you brought in ideas ukuthi ama vendors, they are all over. So we cannot wish them away because our economy is largely informalized. But we have to find a way in which we can accommodate them. And Mr. Munyoro did bring in some ideas in terms of making sure ukuthi there are designated spaces for those vendors. Njengama residents, ngizwile ngihleli laphana ukuthi you brought in quite a number of questions for our candidates. Ngizwile abanye bakhuluma ngokuthi let's not have ama vendors in the city. Let's find spaces for them. Sizwile abakhulume nge-parking. Ukuthi shouldn't we prioritize our senior citizens in the city and make sure ukuthi we find maybe a special rate for them or maybe special, parking bays for them. There are a lot of things ezikhulunyiweyo, but also let's not forget our young people. The issue of drug abuse, ikhulunyiwe njalo, and I'm sure ama candidates ebelalele, and they are going to do something about it. Recreational facilities. Those are some of the things, the points engiwabambileyo ngihleli. Mina, I am ngingumntwana walapha koBulawayo. I grew up here. I was born here. So Bulawayo is a city in my heart. So nxa ngihleli lapha, ngithe ngihleli laphana ngilalele nje izinto ezikade zikhulunywa. I got that sense of hope. Ukuthi there is hope for Bulawayo. And what I liked the most about this meeting are the contributions from the young people. And not just the young people, even laba abadala abaphakathi kwethu, the wisdom that came from them. Abanye besithi thina sesizaretire, but this is what I'm living with you. These are the kind of conversations that we need as Bulawayo and that are going to build our city. With those words, let me not forget to thank our MC who did a splendid job. I'm sure all of you would agree with me, ukuthi uyenze umsebenzi omuhle kakhulu. But there is a lady, okade lokho sithi angikhulumanga, uhleli ku-role, yes. Usehambile? Okay.
Mama Ochwayo kuthiwa Mrs. Chitewe. A question was directed to Dumi, the one who spoke about partnerships with other relevant embassies. So a question basically was, issue health experience in fundraising, embassy funded developmental projects in Bulawayo, the twinning of the city of Bulawayo, and then she said it was a brilliant idea of twinning the city of Bulawayo. And then what she generally wanted to find out from you is, currently, what have you done in terms of partnerships before you go into council? Kukhona na also wakuyenza. And then are there any countries that you are hoping to twin with? That's what she was interested in knowing from candidate to me.
Siyabonga. So in my previous life, in terms of development projects, lama partnerships, ngizaqala ngase Gwanda, Bethel, we sakwanisa ukusosa ama funding for a school, right? Ejoa Cholocho, who also raised our resources. I wrote the proposal for a clinic, to contribute towards a clinic, and I think the community is working towards the completion of that. Gwanda, Datata, Silikwe also raised resources for my classroom blocks. So, first-hand experience that I'm hoping that if get a chance to then be elected, be able to work on that social capital and those relationships. So I think that's the first part of it. You said twinning, that was which cities, what? Which countries? There's Wolverhampton in the UK. That's the first one. So there's already some groundwork. Wolverhampton. Especially in the fire engines and so forth. Because diaspora. And then the two others is Rotterdam, as a Netherlands. And then the other one is Winnipeg, as a Canada. Then also looking at African countries as well. But those three, there's some work because of that, those contacts and the social capital part of it.
Thank you. I think okay, thank you so much, Dumi. Ntembuza hambisa message empendulo ngithi. Sengivala ngithanda ukubonga ama volunteers ethu, le staff ese NYDT, BPRA, le ERC, abayibo abakade begijima bekhankasa, beyenza ama-invitations, abayenze lumhlangano waba yi-success. Thank you very much.